Everybody for tuning in to Coder Conversations. If you want to catch up on any previous episodes or get in contact with us, visit us at www.coderconvos.com. I'm your host, Kevin, and I'm with.
Brian Russick, professional drummer, drum teacher based out of the Suffolk County, Long Island, New York area. You can find me on the web at brianrussick.com.
And today's guest, we have Dr. Anita M. Jackson, upcoming media mogul, radio host, author, entrepreneur, and more. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Brian and Kevin. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here with both of you.
That's quite the list.
It is. I've done quite a bit.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on. So to get things started, we usually like to ask our guests a little bit about their background. So if you don't mind introducing yourselves to our audience.
Sure. First, I'm again so honored to be here with both of you, and hopefully what I share can be an impact to all of those who are listening right now. So my background is pretty varied, to be honest with you. I started off as a marriage and family therapist, working specifically with couples and individuals with depressive disorders. My specialty or area of expertise in the area of sexual abuse and trauma. So did that for about 22 years. And then I also, my doctorate's in organizational leadership and psychology, which is where I did a lot of consultant work, working with mid to large size companies, Nokia, Verizon, North Regional Medical Center, things like that. And then I got laid off from my state job.
Oh, no.
For the state, yes, got laid off. And as much as sometimes when you're going through that kind of experience, you think it's a loss and you're not even seeing what the end result will be. The end result is where I am today. It opened up the door for me to see after I calmed down and had to readjust and had to learn a few things to step into the higher calling that God had for me. So that led me into becoming an entrepreneur and stepping into the things I do now.
Awesome. I mean, I feel like God always opens doors when they need to be opened and shuts doors when they need to be shut.
And sometimes those of us who are a little stubborn and who like to do things our own way, sometimes God lovingly says, I'm going to just hit this one with a 2x4 to let them know that path is done. Let's take you over here to a new path.
Let's take you over here now. Yeah.
And if you're not willing to go when I've given you all the signs to go, I'll just start tearing the nest apart. So you have no choice but to go.
Right.
I'm one of those individuals. I've learned my lesson, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes God has to make us uncomfortable for us to move, and that's when job loss occurs or something else. And
yes,
we can't see it immediately.
And at the same time, we have to remember that when God allows those things to happen to us, it's for our highest good. There's always a blessing on the other side. We may not see it immediately, but it is there and it's guaranteed. It's a universal, spiritual, scriptural law. So it has to be fulfilled. So it took me a while to see that, to come back to that truth.
Yeah. Very nice.
So like, what was your mentality like immediately after the layoffs, and how did you get it back on a positive track?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think my first response was, ooh, I need a break. This will be good.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that break would take a lot longer than I anticipated it to take. Sometimes when you're highly skilled or you've got a rich background, you can't just walk into a traditional type of job. And as much as I was trying to get back to the state job, all these opportunities, the doors was closed. And it took me a minute to really see that God was saying, this season of your life is now done.
Right.
And I need you to step into this new calling, which was being an entrepreneur. Okay. And a part of that journey of becoming into entrepreneur allowed me to be a part of some really big conglomerates, some major stages, working with some fantastic people who are doing some big things in the world, but I would have never happened if I had stayed at my job. So even in that time, I kind of felt like it was time to leave, but I was secure. I mean, I had a really good paying job. I had benefits and I had something that was predictable and stable and consistent. And I'm single, I'm not married to lean on somebody. So I'm not leaving this job. It's a state job. Are you kidding?
Right.
And God's like, she's not listening, so we'll just take it from her.
We're going to take it from her. Yeah.
So there was a huge layoff, and I unfortunately got caught in that layoff, and here we are today.
But you were redirected. Yeah, you got redirected.
I was redirected. And to answer, Kevin, to answer your question, again, like I said, my first response was I needed to take a break because obviously I was working with tons of clients at the time. And then when it turned into 2 months, turned into 4 months, turned into 6 months, turned into a year, turned into 3 years. Somewhere in there, I had to really get still and get quiet and redefine what I believed. Let me tell you, loss will make you look at what you really believe in life. And in focusing on my beliefs and spending a lot of time in prayer and meditation, I came back to the conclusion that I may not be as strong as I thought I was. I may not have the faith that I thought I had.
Right.
Because it was so easy just to rely on what you think you know, rather than actually going through the fire to be purified, to be transformed into becoming to your highest, best version of yourself, so that you really know what you believe, what you think, and what you feel. So that taught me quite a bit. And then to kind of fast forward, when last year my mom passed, my mom and I were best friends, and that really was the most
Wow.
difficult loss of my life.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you very much. I miss her every single day. So I took the year of 2024 off and did nothing but
Yeah.
grieve, but sat with my emotions, but listened to my heart much more profoundly than I ever did before. Because as you can imagine, when you're a therapist or when you're a coach, especially if you're one with the heart to serve, you tend to take care of everybody else more so
Yeah.
than yourself.
Right.
So the losses that I had, and I didn't have just my mom, I had multiple losses during that time, literally back to back. And it just like wiped me out, and I had to be still because I'm one of those go-getters. I'm one of those people who are
Yeah.
very ambitious, very driven, and I'm always moving to the next level. And I love taking people with me because that's just who I am and how God created me. But sometimes you really have to be still and go within and kind of redefine everything, from who you are, your value system, your belief system, your thought patterns. And it was funny because I'm like, I'm so used to doing this for everybody else that I forgot to do this for myself.
Ah,
So the
interesting.
losses, the gift that my mother gave me in having to deal with my own heart was, can I apply what I've been teaching clients for 21, 22 years to my own life? Yes, I can.
Right.
And in doing that, it helped me come back to center, helped me come back to faith, helped me come back to God, helped me come back to Anita, not just the doctor, not just the coach, not just the speaker or the author, but Anita, Michelle, Jackson. Take all those titles off, and who am I? And
Right.
I
So
had to redefine that.
you use your skill set, your tool belt to reconfigure your own life pretty much. Sounds like.
I didn't happen immediately. Let me
Yeah.
be very transparent. I'm a little bit of a drama queen. I was
Yeah.
crying to God and like, why? I'm served. I'm taking care of everybody else. Why is this? Woe is me. Why is this happening to me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, God in his loving grace says, well, when this one stops being a drama queen, I'll talk to her. And so she can hear, because
Right.
here's the thing. Most of us hear stuff, but do we really listen?
No.
Do we really listen at the
No.
core? And I had to listen. So I was made to be still, made to be quiet in that circumstance, and really reconnect to who I am, where I am. And I'm still going through that journey. I'm not going to tell you I've arrived at it. I don't think I've even mastered it. I think, but what I've learned is how crucial it is to find space, find time to be still with your heart as often as possible, because your heart knows exactly who you are and where you're supposed to be going. And we live in a world where there's so much noise, especially now, and there's so many shiny little objects or even dull objects, to be
Oh my
honest with
God.
you,
I know.
that can get us distracted, that
Oh
we
yeah.
don't stay centered.
Yes, like um sometimes like God has to take away all of our stable points, things that we typically have faith in, so then we can depend on him. We stop trying to rely on the external world and then come back to God. Sometimes removal of jobs and everything else that we put so much faith in, and it's difficult, but ultimately I find it's worth it. Like,
Or you learn, because I think what I've learned during this season too is, for those of us who are really gifted, not in an egotistical, arrogant kind of way, we just know that we have the gift to put our talents towards anything and make things happen. I recognize that that's part of my gifting. Sometimes we rely so much on our own strengths, our own abilities, our own giftings, that especially those of us who have a faith of some sort, we believe in God of some sort, of God source, spirit, universe, whatever word, that
Right.
we don't lean on God to be the absolute foundation and source of our life. We rely on our talents and our gifts more so than leaning on God. That was my story. And I see it. I see it very clearly now. So in learning how to surrender, more opportunities are now opening up, more connections are coming forward as I surrender, saying, like, what would you have me do? Where do you want me to go? Who do you want me to
Wow.
meet? And then people like you show up. Kevin shows up in my life. And I'm one who loves to create these partnerships and saying, what can we
Yeah.
do together that's going to make an impact and leave a legacy long after we're gone? So that's what's happened now.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's great that you mentioned that because, like, I've been, I read the Bible and I think about things, and something that recently has been coming across my mind is that here in America, we worship work, we worship our achievements,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
the Bible tells us like our works is like filthy rags before God. So, sometimes God has to pull us from just worshiping our own works on like this is what I did, this is what I deserve,
Right.
Or
and
then envy. I think
yeah,
envy is huge.
Yeah.
I think we
and
all
And
struggle with that from time to time.
I don't want our audience to think that you can't have those gifts and talents. They were put in you for a reason. But the goal is to find harmony. I don't like the word balance because I've seen as a psychologist and as a therapist that balance typically throws people off, especially women and especially women of color. What we're looking for is harmony or flow. How do you flow? How do you co-create? How do you live in ease? Because that's really what we were designed for, rather than this fight and this struggle and this constant need to prove ourselves for our worth and our value. If
Right.
we could just go, we've already been designed with worth and value. It's automatically there. This is why we have these gifts and these talents. And if we can just relax, I don't think most of us really understand the power of being still or being silent or relaxing. We don't know how to do this and we don't give ourselves permission to do it. Therefore, we have mental health issues, we have physical issues, we have relationship issues because we're constantly moving rather than staying present in the moment.
We're never stopping.
We're never stopping. And our world, unfortunately, has unconsciously or indirectly, that's what I'm looking for, maybe unconsciously too, has convinced us that the only way we have value is we have to constantly work hard.
Go, go, go,
yeah,
go, go, go. Yeah.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's
No.
worse for women. I think most men don't see it, but it's worse for women. We deal with burnout and overwhelm much
Yeah.
more
Can
intensely than
imagine.
men do. Yeah.
Can imagine that.
Not
If
that
you look
men don't. It's just different. It's just different.
right,
That's all.
Different. Right.
and if you look in Genesis, Adam and Eve, they weren't built to work. Like they didn't have to really work until after they sinned and got kicked out of
That's
the garden.
right.
So
But
God,
then remember, you got the New Testament that
yeah,
has restored us back to where we're supposed to
right.
be.
Like once you get back in submission and obedience to God, you wonder like why are these doors opening? Why is things happening? Like it's not me working so hard. Opportunities are just being brought to me, but it starts with the obedience.
And let me tell you,
Yeah.
when you really surrender, when you really take the time to really connect to your spirit as the ultimate source of your life, and then still own that you're strong, that you're intelligent, that you're powerful, that you're gifted, opportunities will come to you. Like the one I told you, gentlemen, earlier. I had one drop into my lap. I've been praying for it, looking for it for years, but wasn't really pursuing it. It
Right.
dropped in my lap, and I said, okay, because I've learned to be still and say, whatever you want me to do, I'm ready to do it.
I
You've
will
allowed
follow
me to
you.
come. I
Yeah.
will follow you. I've
Will follow
accomplished what I
you.
need to
Yeah.
accomplish. What would you have me do? Bring it forward. And now it's in front of me. And my job is to continue to have faith and to walk this path through until it comes to fruition. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was still in my head and not in my heart. It took me quite a few years to really understand. Like I understood it intellectually, but it's intellectual knowledge is very different than spiritual and personal knowledge. Very, very different.
Oh, yeah. I
And
mean, what do
so
you think the best lesson is, if we're talking about our heart, coming from our heart, like, what's the best way we could do that?
be still and listen.
Yeah.
Not only just hear, because we can hear little fleeting things, and if
Right.
we hear it, you have to understand that message that seems fleeting, I think, is really a God thing or a spirit thing or a soul
Yeah.
thing
Right.
that's trying to get your attention because typically the calling on our lives is not going to scream at us. In some situations, maybe it will, but 9 times out of 10, I think it's quiet. And it's quiet because it wants you to go deep within your heart, deep within your soul. Let me make sure I explain what your soul is, because I think most people get that confused and they use soul and spirit interchangeably when I think they're very different. So your soul is your mind, how you think, your will, how you behave, and your emotions, how you feel. So all of those things play together in helping you really see who God has created you to be in a spiritual sense. We're spiritual beings in a human body having human experiences that unfortunately those experiences take away from our spiritual truth and power. Once we get back to that, however you choose to
Yeah,
define that, then life starts to become easy because that's what it's designed
absolutely.
to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I know the Bible says lean not into your own understanding, but a lot of times
Mhm.
we want to understand before we jump off the cliff, but that's not faith. That's us doing our
Yeah, that
Yeah.
that's definitely me. I want all my ducks in a row. I want all my T's crossed, my
Same
I's.
way. Yeah.
I'm very
Yeah.
analytical. I'm very strategic, and I have the gift of vision and discernment, so I can see way out into the future and I understand things. But sometimes you just have to say, okay, I trust you. I don't have to know everything because I know you got me. Let me
Right.
just move forward. I need to do what I'm supposed to do to the best
There
of
we
my
go.
ability. But at the same time, once I've done all I can do, that's when God's supernatural power kicks in and takes
Comes
over.
in.
When you
Yeah.
allowed it. Yeah.
Like when that door is ready, finally ready to be cracked open, God just swings it wide open. It's like,
Wide
here it
open.
is. Here it is
And you're
for
like,
you. Walk
oh, look,
in.
that was so
Time to walk
easy.
in.
I think this circumstance I'm going through right now is like that. It's like I had a fleeting thought and I told my best friend this. And like I actually thought about that company and said, boy, I wish I had came up with that idea myself. It was a fleeting thought. And then, 3 days later, the CEO calls me, the founder, the owner, and who is also the CEO calls me and says, I'm interested in selling, this business. Are you interested? If not, do you know someone? And I'm like,
Wow.
get out, get out. I was just, get out. So I'm like, okay, Father, this is what you put before me. I'm going to walk it. Open up the door. Help me see this. And I just have to get, because my analytical brain is trying to figure out everything and trying to make it work through what I think
Yeah.
it's supposed to do. And I have to constantly go back and surrender and saying, no, you brought this to me. What do you want me to do? Show me, who am I supposed to talk to? Who am I supposed to be in partnership with? Who am I supposed to, what am I supposed to offer him? How do I have this conversation with him? And being guided every step of the way and just seeing it flow. And I'm like, boy, I wish I had learned this when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
Now I'm over here in my 50s, heading towards my 60s, and looking at this going, oh, I wish I had known this years ago.
Well, these days, that's young.
Yeah,
People are living to
I still
90,
feel very young. I
100.
don't look
You know what
my
I mean?
age either.
So, like, how difficult was the process of kind of short circuiting your analytical mind and just saying, "I'm gonna step out on faith"?
uh, it's a journey. It's not something that you arrive to. It's
Yeah.
something that you focus on and you do every single day. And I'm not going to tell you that I'm always good at it. I'm more aware of it that I can catch myself a lot faster than I could before and go, wait a minute, I'm trying to control too much. Because that's really
Ah,
what it's all about.
that's
I'm trying to
interesting.
control too much rather than trusting God and the divine timing and everything else that's supposed to work on for my highest good. So let me let go. I've learned to surrender and go, ooh, I let go. Not this way. I let go. I put it before you so that you can have control in what I'm supposed to do in every area of my life. So
Right.
it's a daily process. Waking up in the morning, spending time in meditation, spending time in journaling, things your audience already knows is important, but maybe making it a non negotiable priority in your life is what's going to change your life.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think
so
it's
you mentioned journaling. How would you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Oh, I think every therapist and psychologist tells you you should journal. There's no
Yes.
right or wrong way. There's no right or wrong way to journal.
Yeah.
But our the reason why journaling is so powerful, it allows your mind to release so much of what we hold inside, and then it gives space for us to hear something else, something that God or source or spirit, whatever word you want to use, can speak to us through our journaling. So it doesn't have to be any kind of order. It doesn't have to be. Sometimes I just write in bullet points, just writing something out. Sometimes I write a
Right.
letter to God. Sometimes I write a letter to myself. Sometimes it's just a fleeting thought that I'll just write down. I don't think there has to be. Sometimes I think the coaching world makes us feel that we have to do everything a certain way in
Right.
order for it to work. And I'm the opposite. I'm like, I don't like that kind of conditioning because I don't think it works for the human, spirit to some degree or and mind. It's to what's the word I'm looking for? There's a word I'm looking for and I can't find it
Yeah,
right now. But
formulaic.
yeah, there's no formula to it. It's just being authentic and
Yeah.
being true and allowing that truth to set you free, even if it's a negative truth. Like the truth is, I'm afraid right now. I don't know if I can do this. That's the truth. So now let me go surrender that to God. I'm afraid. I don't know if I can do this, but you can give me the wisdom. You can give me the strength. You can give me the insight of what I can do to move forward. So journaling gives you another way to release, especially if you don't have someone that you trust, that you can be transparent with, that you can be authentic with, that you can be vulnerable with. A journal will never talk back to you, will never criticize you, will never abandon you, and will
Yeah.
always keep your secrets. So why not?
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's really important that somebody with your credentials and your background is saying this because, a lot of times people always think that you have to rely on your own wisdom, your own actions. But sometimes God puts you in that kind of like the desert, the wilderness. You have to walk until you rely on God and not try to do it your way. And you're
Yeah.
going to walk until you start becoming obedient.
I don't believe God designed us to be alone, but He allows us to have circumstances in our life to be alone because it's about refining. It's about
Absolutely. Yep.
really helping you
Yeah.
drop sometimes it's about letting go. He puts you in a quiet place. He puts you in a place where you're alone so that he can renew your mind, transform your mind,
Reshape. Yeah.
reshape things so that you can maybe let go of the things that you learned from your family. Not that they were bad, because I am a firm believer that there's no reason to ever criticize or be angry with or blame someone else in your past. Every part of your life, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, serves a powerful purpose for your highest good. And if you can see, even that traumatic experience in your life serves a powerful purpose. And if you look for it, if you ask for it, that truth will be revealed and it will take you to your next level. So I'm like, yes, I grew up in a childhood where there was mixed violence. Yes, I was sexually abused as a child. Those things did happen. Yes, they did impact me. They affected me in a way. However, what can I learn from them? Is there, and you may not even learn about it, whatever you need to learn until years later.
Yeah.
That's fine. But the moment you allow yourself to look at your past and say, there's something to learn from, there's a reason why I went through it. And if that reason can reshape me so that I can be of service to someone else in the future to get through that issue or to never even go through that issue, then my life has served a purpose. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I believe God made us for relationship and fellowship, not only with others, but with Him as well. So sometimes He has
Absolutely.
to separate us so we can get back to not just trying to do things our way, but having a relationship with Him and with others. Like,
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's thy will, not my will. A lot of
Yeah.
people think, "Oh, my will, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, watch me do this." And it's like, no, I mean, maybe you could, but imagine how much easier it would be if you were aligned with God in that moment.
Yeah. I think, the the journey of really allowing ourselves to see how powerful God made us and how much God has created us for life and life abundantly. We really understood that. We probably wouldn't suffer as much as we're suffering right now. Most of us have an informational understanding of that. We don't have a heart, soul, spirit understanding of
Yeah,
that.
I can see that.
And once you can get it down to that point where you really believe it, it brings peace. And that peace starts to energetically flow through your body, through your cells, through your energy, through your vibration at such a level that it starts to be the magnification of what you're desiring for your life. And if we could just be still enough to allow that to be the truth, we could see things change. And I'm still, like I said earlier, I'm still learning how to be still. My mind, I'm ADHD, clinically diagnosed, went through the testing and all that. So my mind is gone, constantly going everywhere, constantly thinking, constantly dreaming, constantly figuring out things, constantly coming up with solutions. It's just the way I'm made. I'm wired
Hyperdrive,
that way, very
hyperdrive.
much
Yeah,
so.
yeah, yeah.
So I have to intentionally find those moments where I get up in the morning and I just sit staring out the window, or I close my eyes and meditate, or I'm going on a walk and just really talking to God during that time. I have to make it a conscious decision to be still in order to hear my next step.
Right.
And again, it took me years to get here, to get to this point. I didn't do it when I was younger. Boy, I wish I knew back then. I'd probably be a multi-billionaire by that time, to be honest with
Yeah.
you.
Right.
But since I'm learning it now, it's for this season of my life now.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, I find sometimes like we're just in seasons of weakness so that we get to the point where we can't just rely on ourselves. Like, hey, go
Absolutely.
work with someone else. Don't just try to do it by yourself, and a lot of times when you're talented, you want to do it by yourself because you
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
put it all on your
So
shoulders.
true.
God didn't
So true.
design us for that.
And I think it's a beautiful thing that you said, because you do get to find out and you get to learn how to receive, how to allow yourself to receive support, receive encouragement. You may find out who your inner circle people really are during the time of
Yeah.
weakness or during the time of hibernation. You may find out that your value system has changed, and so therefore the people that you hang around needs to change. You may see, there's just so much you get to see during that time of elevation, that time of transformation, that time of solitude with God. And it again, I will always say that it's never to hurt you, it's only to prosper you to your next level of success. So it's been a journey. I'm still learning. I still fail. I still make mistakes. I still operate out of balance, out of harmony. By no means am I perfect. But what I'm learning is that I don't need to be perfect. God never asked me to be perfect.
Right.
He just asked me to be my authentic self and to love people as much as possible and to be of service while still also serving my own calling, my own heart, my own being.
And you mentioned transformation. I think
Yeah.
that's huge. Yeah.
I I've always been someone who believed in transformation. I think change every single day, and this is why it's so important. Like if you're in a relationship with another person, uh, most people don't realize that the root word of relationship is relate. Well, the real definition of the word relate is to talk. So in order to relate to someone, you have to talk to someone. You have to talk. You got to tell somebody who you
Yeah.
are, where you are, what you're doing. So the goal here is, who do I have in my inner circle that I can really be authentic to? I can really share my heart with without being judged or criticized, or someone who can, or even someone who can love you enough to tell you your truth when you don't want to hear it. One of my best friend just did that a couple days ago and said something to me, and I'm like, I don't like you right now.
Uh,
It's true what you said, thank God.
yeah.
But she knows me and I know her, and we can have that kind of honest conversations. And you
Right.
need those kind of people in your life, especially if you're going to your next level. You need someone who's willing to see you and who you can talk to freely. And if you don't find anyone, this is why I became a therapist, because sometimes talking to a stranger can be much more powerful than talking to someone that you know, because there's no judgment, there's no criticism. They're there to
Ah,
support you, to love you, to, well, I don't know if they're there to love you, but to support you, to encourage you, and
right.
to help you see what maybe you can't see right now,
Where
because they
like
can
a
see things that you don't.
friend kind so you're saying like where a friend might judge you, the
And
therapist will not judge you.
yeah, a friend may judge you unintentionally because they've got their own
Unintentionally.
filters and they've
Yeah.
known you for years. They've seen you and you're good, you're bad, and you're ugly. So there are going to be judgments there. That's just a part of relationship. But working with the therapist who is trained to just be there to hear you and to offer some insight to hopefully help you make some decisions, that word decision means to reach a definite conclusion, to change the direction that you're thinking or behaving or feeling so that you can get well or whole. I'd rather say whole.
That's a great point you made about learning to receive, because I know a lot of times, we say no because we think we're being gracious, but
Right.
sometimes you just have to say yes so that they can get their blessing, like by giving to you. And, you'll never trust if you don't learn to receive, like receiving advice as well.
We were
Right.
designed for both. We were designed to give
Right.
and to receive. And when we don't allow ourselves to have both, we're actually out of balance. And therefore, we don't have the capacity to hold the very thing God's trying to get to us.
Exactly. And do you think it's sometimes like maybe a lack of self-esteem as well, as why sometimes we don't receive because we feel like we're not good enough?
Yeah, I do think that's part of it, but I don't think that's the only part. I think there's so
Okay.
many layers to the human mind and the human psychology that it can't be just black and white. There's a mixture of gray in there. So, yes, there's some part of it that has to do with I'm not good enough, or there may be some part of it of, I don't know how to receive. I haven't been taught to receive. It looks weird. No one's ever been around to give me something that I can learn how to receive. I've always had to give to other people. So it's just, things are so out of balance, you just don't know. But yeah, I think at the root, most of us, most of us are, I think we struggle with receiving because we just haven't been in a position to receive a lot, or to
Yeah.
have our needs really met. Maybe they've been touched upon, but have they really been met? And because they haven't, so for example, let me see if I can give an example. Someone who may not have been brought up in a family where there's a lot of hugging and kissing, so they may have a hard time receiving affection. And it's not because they don't want to, it's just they haven't been in an environment that has helped them develop the ability to, what's the word I'm looking for, process that, the ability to receive it. It feels weird, and I'm saying that because that was me for the longest time. My family is not a huggy, touchy, kissy kind of person,
Yeah.
people. And so when I got in a relationship with, a man, and he's very affectionate, it was weird at first. Like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
okay, I understand some of the dynamics of it, but not all the time, right? So over the years, that has developed. And then hugging kids. This is why hugging kids understand the power of touch, of hugs, of
Yes.
kisses. They
Yes.
understand that it makes them feel full and happy.
Yeah.
And when we get older, somewhere along the line, we stop doing that.
We lose
We
that.
we
Yeah.
lose that. And
Yeah.
so we were created for that kind of connection. This is why, we're not going to be talking about sex or intimacy, but there's so much power in really understanding the different levels of intimacy. And that's a whole nother, conversation for another time. But there's something about the receiving aspect of that is so crucial to our health, to our wellness, to our success. And so until we really allow ourselves, if someone struggles with receiving, one of the tips I usually give them is go get a massage. You don't have
Yeah.
to worry about giving to anyone. The perfect way to really learn how to receive and to get your body trained to receive energetically, even biologically, go get a massage. It'll be one of the best things you can do for yourself. Why? It releases all kind of chemicals in your body, as well as the masseuse, but more so in your own body, that helps your body reduce cortisol. That's your stress hormone. Increase serotonin. That's your chemical for emotions and feelings, helping with dopamine. All of a sudden running a loss on words. Dopamine, epinephrine, serotonin, oxytocin. Oxytocin is your money and your bond. It's your bonding hormone, but it's also your wealth and your abundance hormone. That's a whole nother conversation for
Okay.
another time too. But all of these chemicals, when you're being massaged on, is helping your body master or learn how to receive. I'll say it that way.
Now, does it have to be like deep tissue, or
No,
it could be softer?
as long as you are being touched on a regular basis, your body is actually being in the right way. Can't be the wrong way, because that's
Sure,
a
sure.
whole nother issue that can come up. But if it's done, this is why I say massage. If you're getting a massage that's done correctly, by a certified licensed masseuse, your body's going to be trained, and they know what to do and how to massage your body in a way to help those chemicals. It's almost like, perfect example. If you go to a masseuse, or you can do this yourself, you're massaging your own neck and your shoulders, and you feel some tightness or tenderness, or you feel a knot. That means there's chemicals that's been built up, cortisol specifically, built up in your body, and that actually interferes with your ability to receive. Believe it or not, from a biological perspective. So this is a whole nother conversation for
That's
another time,
really
because there's so
interesting,
much.
though.
But allowing ourselves to master receiving means, how do I allow myself to touch? How do I allow my be touched? Let me say it that way. How do I allow myself to be touched in a healthy, um, loving, tender, safe kind of way? And massages are one of the best ways to do it, I think.
Yeah, I think it's part of us as humans interacting with each other, being more social, because like in this day and age we're more wealthy than ever, but you have people that are more depressed than ever.
Deprived. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's because kind of society right now is tailored in a way that we're isolated. Like, okay, I'm gonna go home, get on my computer or my phone, and I'm not dealing with people on a face-to-face basis. And
And COVID didn't help.
right.
No,
COVID
and
made it
it's
worse.
and it's
Right? Yeah.
competition, envy. What do you have? What do I have? Oh, I have a nicer car. Oh, my girlfriend's more attractive. Like, it could be anything, but
Yeah.
we need to kind of step back and say, okay, this is who I am. This is what I want, and this is the direction
Right.
I want to go in. and then
Right.
see, is that true? Do you really want to do what you think you want to do, because God might have another plan.
And you keep going down the path until the path changes, or until, and if you can't figure out what you need to do, this is when you go talk to your pastor, talk to your best friend. Hopefully you can talk to them safely and freely. Go work with the coach. There's so many things that there's so many dynamics to the human experience that you can't just leave it into one way of thinking or one way of feeling. And I was going to say, in regards to what you guys are talking about with everything happening in the world today, I think we're dealing with PTSD unconsciously. I think
Yeah.
most of us are dealing with post traumatic stress from COVID, with the looming potential of a war coming with Iran. These things make us nervous. These things make us scared. It makes us feel unstable. And so when the outside world is wonky and wobbly, this is when you have to come back to your internal world. You've got to come back to your truth. You've got to come back to your faith. You've got to come back to who God has ordained. And that will help you during anything, any experience in your life when everything else around you is falling apart. You can feel stable. So yes, I know there's all this craziness happening on the outside, but because I'm grounded and I know whose I am and who I am, I'm more stable and I can handle the storm with ease. That doesn't mean I won't be wobbly. I may be wobbly,
Right.
but I won't break. I won't
Right.
fall apart. And if I do fall apart, I know that there's a God who loves me enough that He'll help me get right back up. I.e., losing, the job, losing my house, my car, all the things I've lost, my mom, and then having the right people come at the right time to love me to this next level, and now I get to give that back to other people.
That's amazing.
Exactly, because God hasn't given us a spirit of fear. Like when you're,
But a power sound, a
yeah,
power love and a sound mind. Come on now.
exactly. And so, like with all the turbulence and all of these things going on, that's why I'm kind of at peace because, you root your faith in God and like Jesus will lead you through everything. So
Yes.
you just have to let it go. Like you mentioned, if we try to take it on ourselves, we try to logically understand or we try to do something, then that's when the worries begin. But if you put the burden on Jesus, then things will handle themselves. So
And again, because I believe your show probably speaks to all kinds of people with all kinds of faith. Our heart's desire is that you reconnect to God, however you choose to do that, so that you can live your best life. Because that's what God wants for you, is to live your best life so that you can change the lives of your family members, leave a different legacy than has been left for you. And we can change this world if we actually come back to center, come back to God, come back to truth.
Right.
So yeah, like with all of these things going on, like you kind of mentioned like you're centering yourself but like when the worries start overtaking you, how do you get back to center? How do you like
Prayer
refocus your
meditation.
mm,
Easy. Prayer meditation. It's my go-to. It's my non-negotiable. It's my daily habit. And if that, once prayer, I like music, all kinds of music. So music calms me down quite a bit. I love laughing. So I'll watch crazy movies. Like my best friend and I, we laugh hard. We're the kind of, when we laugh where there's no sound. There's that intense kind of belly laugh where there's nothing coming out. So
Yeah.
those are kinds of things that help me center. Cooking helps me center. Cooking for other people helps me center. Entertaining, sometimes taking care of someone else makes me come back to center. So it's not just one thing, it's several things that makes my life feel rich, that makes me feel good. And that's something I do. Believe it or not, shark movies make me come back to center. I love shark movies.
Wow.
I can watch them repeatedly. So I'm saying this because I want other people to say it doesn't have to look like everybody else's way of finding center. It doesn't always have to be so serious. It can be anything that works for my personality, my heart, my truth. But the first thing that I typically go to is prayer and meditation. That
Okay, so
works for me very quickly.
you mentioned meditation. I mean, there's many forms of meditation. What is the one that you would
Ooh,
recommend for,
that's that's a
just moving
good one.
forward in life? Yeah.
I don't follow anyone specifically or any particular method, but I will tell you the ones that I like the most. Anything by Dr. Joe Dispenza, his meditations I think are powerful. All you have to do is go to YouTube. He's got several there. Lewis Howe has a couple of meditations that I like. There's a new guy. I can't think of his last name. His name is David something, but he's good. Um, Meditation, I kind of like instrumental, instrumental music in the background.
Yeah.
Guided meditation throws me off because then I start focusing on what they're saying, and instead of really just allowing myself to be present in that moment. I've learned that I can't do meditation lying down because it puts me to sleep unless I really want to take a nap or something. But typically, I just sit in Indian style and just allow myself to go quiet, allow myself to be still, listen to the rhythm of my heart and my breathing, and then just let it flow how it flows. So there's no, again, I'm a firm believer there's no right or wrong way to do anything. You just need to find the one that works for you and stick with it, be consistent with it, and you will see results. And it doesn't take that long to see
Right.
results. You can see results within 30 days. And then if you really want to see results, you want to change a habit. Typically, it takes between 60 to 72, sometimes 90 days, depending on the habit you're trying to change and how long it's been in existence. So if you give yourself the space to have the time to do it, you will see results.
So you're like over time, have you found yourself having to reprioritize what was important in life? Like
Oh,
for example, me, like early, I was chasing money, but as I got older, different things became more important.
wisdom comes with maturity. Wisdom comes with age.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. As I've gotten older, as I get older, I find that that I don't need the hustle and the bustle like I thought I did. I didn't need to work so hard. I don't need a whole bunch of friends around me because I'm an extrovert, so I usually have a lot of people around me. I'm that type of bubbly person. Now
Right.
I'm very particular about who's around me. I
Oh,
don't need
interesting.
much. I don't need as much as I did before, but I need what's selective, what's true, what's authentic, what really is real to my heart. That's what I'm looking for. And if I can't have it, I'd rather just be by myself.
Right. So you're looking for that heart connection in all that you do.
There's no other way to live life. It's
Yeah.
but through your heart. That's what gives you life is your heart. So might as well live from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I kind of find like, I had to go through the experience of trying this different stuff out before I realized, okay, I don't really need it. Like, you got to buy the
Yeah,
car first, and okay, yeah, I bought it now. It's not all that. And,
yeah.
you
The
know,
only thing I do think everybody should do is do vacations as often as you possibly can, especially couples,
mm,
because I think that's important. The marriage and family therapist still believes every couple should date every single week, and every couple should get away on some sort of a mini vacation at least every quarter. If you really want to make, because the goal is to
Yeah.
make sure that you're maintaining your connection and your intimacy, and that can only happen when you're face to face, one on one, without all the distractions of the outside world.
Right. Makes sense.
yeah, I think there's a lot of importance in rest. Like, even God rested one day, so we need rest as well. So, in this
Maybe
work,
even more so
yeah,
because we're burnt out, we're tired, we're
exactly.
overwhelmed, we're unhealthy, we're not really living at our highest potential if we're honest. And so in order to get to our highest potential, sometimes we have to release all the old things that we've been doing because they no longer serve us, and be open to trying a new way. And I'm at this place where I've decided I can't go back to the way things were before. I can't think the way I thought before. I can't act and do the same things I did before because they don't work. They're not getting the results that I want anyway, so why keep doing them? What's that phrase? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and
Right,
expecting a
right.
different
Over and
result.
over.
I refuse to be insane, so I won't do it. So this year, that's a focus for me right now. It's something that I say on a regular basis. I refuse whatever situation comes up. My old thought patterns will kick in because it's been there for years. So I'm conscious of it enough to say, nope, I'm not going back to that. I'm not believing that anymore. I'm not thinking that way anymore. I'm choosing another way. And that's the most powerful thing that I think anyone can say is they have the ability to choose to do things differently. And that's when their life is going to change. So I'm choosing not to operate in fear. I'm choosing not to operate in, for example, let's say someone says, well, I'm so afraid to speak. You have to make the decision that I'm not going to be afraid to speak. It may take me a little bit longer, and I'm going to give myself the grace to have that space to learn how to do it. But I'm not going backward. I'm only going forward. Because you go backward, you die.
Right.
That's just
So, I
my
mean,
personal opinion.
if someone's on autopilot, if they're just on autopilot, what would you recommend they do? How do they get in the zone? How do they get in the feel?
Great question. Well, I think if you're on autopilot, you don't know you're on autopilot, and
Right.
so you're gonna somewhere along the line, something's gonna have to take you off. track, which means something, unfortunately, something dramatic, a
Something
loss
bad,
of some
probably.
sort.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but something is going to knock you off course to get your attention. Because that means if you're on autopilot, you're not paying attention. You're not listening. You're not watching. You don't care. You're just kind of existing. You're kind of, numb, maybe. And you're just allowing things to be as they are. God loves you enough to say, I didn't create you to just exist. I created you to live life and live it abundantly and have a sense of meaning. So to get you back on course, I'm gonna knock you off the course you're on.
Right.
So yeah, be
So I know like
prepared.
so I know like sometimes repetition is necessary to accomplish certain things, but on the other hand,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, it can be insanity if you're doing the same thing over and over and you're not getting the intended results. So how do you know whether you're doing the right repetition versus the sort of insane kind of failing repetition?
Growth and results. If you're not seeing growth, if you're not seeing results, you're stuck. Something's wrong. You're not operating at their highest potential. That was something I had to see it myself. I'm doing the same thing, but it's not growing. I'm not making more money. I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. I'm still whatever. That tells you, here's these are some big signs that something is out of alignment. Something is not operating the way it's supposed to, because I'm not, we're supposed to be growing all the time. That's what God intended. We're supposed to be growing, we're supposed to be maturing, we're supposed to be moving into our next level all the time. And if that's not happening, something's wrong.
Now, to everyone you talk to, do you recommend like life coaching or career coaching? What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, you should have a mentor or
Okay.
mentors or a coach, someone in your corner who can see what you can't see. Because sometimes things are too close and you've been in it for so long because it's familiar, it's easy, it's what you know, that sometimes God will bring you someone who can come and see the things that you can't see. Especially if you're striving to be successful, or especially if you're striving to change the legacy in your family. You probably need someone who can see things you can't see. So coaching and working with a mentor, or having a mentor, or being a part of a group, or having an inner circle of girlfriends or guys that you can talk to is essential to your success and your well-being. It
And
should be a
what if,
non-negotiable, in my opinion.
okay, that's great. I mean, now what if someone though can't afford the coach? What do you recommend
Um,
they
you don't you don't always have to forward coach. You can go to, churches.
Yeah,
Churches have groups or meetup group. There's groups out there that you can
meetups.
attend for
Yeah.
free, where you could be around people and find, when you go to a meetup group that's free, say, okay, God, you show me who is here that could be a part of my inner circle. Who's that person I can create a friendship with? My best friend and I met on a Zoom meeting just like this.
Wow.
We met on a podcast. We were introduced together, met on a podcast, and connected instantly. We've been friends ever since. It's only been,
Amazing.
8 years, but I keep saying it's 20 because it feels like that. It feels like we've
That's
known each other for
amazing.
years. So don't close any door that could potentially open up an opportunity for you to connect to the right person who could step in and be a part of changing your life, and you being a part of changing their life.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say like you need to say yes to everything, and I agree to that to an extent. But there's also times where you kind of feel bad about something, so there's times where you need to say no. So like when do you know you need to say no versus yes?
Great question. If you know yourself, you know your values, you know your belief systems, you know what you believe in, it's easy to know when something aligns with you and you can say yes to, or if it doesn't align, you can say no. Your internal intuition, your spirit will give you a check. Your heart will start beating. Something in you will just say, this doesn't feel right. Trust that first instinct. Your first response is probably the correct response, and follow that through. I do believe, however, if you're one who's been afraid to say yes to things, you may need to have a year of yes. Shonda Rhimes wrote a book on that. I had a client write a book on it too, on what does it mean to just say yes to the things that really align with your heart, your soul, and your spirit. If it comes in agreement, it's like you get excited about something, an opportunity that's come to you, you feel that yes, say yes and follow it all the way through until that door closes.
Right.
you know um until then, there's really no reason to say no unless it's going to put you in harm's way. If it's going to threaten your life, if it's going to put you in harm's way, then don't do it. Say no. Walk away. You'll know. Trust your instincts. Trust your spirit of God inside you. and for
Intuition.
those
Yeah.
and
Intuition.
for those who said my intuition has failed me, no, your intuition didn't fail you. The truth be told, your intuition didn't fail you. You didn't listen to the
You weren't
whole thing.
listening. Yeah,
You
you
weren't
weren't
listening
listening
to,
clear
you
enough.
probably heard a little bit and then jumped,
Yeah.
rather than let me sit with this a little bit longer. Let me ask for more signs and confirmation. What does my heart say? And let me trust me. And if for some reason it didn't go the way you wanted to, it wasn't about you missing the mark. It was about this opportunity came and it went the way that it did, to maybe help you grow and continue to go, let me evaluate what lesson am I supposed to learn for this, even though it didn't go the way I wanted to. There's something I'm supposed to learn from this that will help me in the future.
So yeah, you've been like very accomplished throughout, you know, your life. But there's periods where you were unhappy. So like, did you come to a conclusion over time, like, um, maybe I'm chasing the wrong thing. Maybe I need to look in this other direction. This really brings happiness versus what I used to think brings happiness.
I think I have failed more than I have succeeded, but I've accomplished a lot along the way.
Okay.
And and the truth be told, I'm one of the lucky ones who has always been on her path. I think
Ah,
I've always known that I was supposed to be of service to others. I think I knew that as a kid. I think I've always known
okay.
I would speak to the masses. I would do something that changes people's lives. It's been grounded in me, so I always knew that. My mother knew it. She said she saw it when I was a kid. Apparently, there's a story where when we were living in New York, I was on the staircase, just yakking like a little 5-year-old kid does. But all these adults were around me, and she said they were looking at you and listening and nodding their head and responding the whole time. And I knew there you were going to make an impact in people's lives, and I've been doing it ever
Wow.
since. Now, the flip side to that is I think where I've been challenged is I think things should happen immediately and not really trusting divine timing because
Yeah.
of my gifts and ability. And I get
Yeah.
myself trapped because I'm trying to make things happen rather than really letting go and saying, okay, I've done all I can do. The rest is in God's hands. My job here is now to rest and stay in faith and trust that the process will do exactly what it's supposed to do in my life, good, bad, or ugly. Trust that everything has a purpose in my life. So it's taken me some time to really learn to mature, to heal, and to allow myself to let things be exactly as they are. Because when I don't hold on to it, they blossom. When I hold on to them, they die. Does that
Yeah, I
make
mean,
sense?
it's yeah, and it's almost like, walking into a closed door, like you're banging your head against the wall. You don't even realize the door is closed,
Yeah.
and then for a second, your intuition pops up and says, "Hey, buddy, like, look to the left." And then you look to the left, you're like, "Oh, okay." And, my friend has a great idea for me, business idea. Okay, I'll try that, and then it works out. So you really never know.
You don't know. And I'm going to come back to the more you can be still and seek to hear God's source spirit inside you, seek to hear your own intuition, the better off you're probably going to be. Really,
Yeah,
really make that a non-negotiable, make that a priority. And again, I keep saying I haven't mastered it yet. I don't know if I ever will, but I know that it's a priority for me because I can see the difference between when I wasn't doing it years before and how I'm doing it now. And the difference that I'm experiencing is that things are coming to me much easier. There's things that's making me more happy because I'm more in line with listening to my heart, listening to what God's calling me to do, and trusting the divine process than I ever have before. Do I still want things to move quickly? Yes, because I like things to move. I like to see results. That's my
sure.
personality type. If I'm putting effort at it, I want to see results pretty quickly.
I
But
think we're
sometimes
mostly
things
like
don't
that.
take that
Yeah,
way.
I
Yeah,
think we're
we
mostly
are.
like that. Yeah.
But we have to learn how to say, okay, if it didn't happen immediately, then there's something else that still needs to take place. Can I let go, trust the process, and allow it to have it? It's like having a baby learn how to walk. Of course, you don't want the baby to fall and scrape its knee or hurt itself, but at the same time, that falling is going to teach that child how to balance. So you have to let
Yeah,
that happen in
it's
order
part of
to keep moving forward. It's part of the
it. Yeah,
journey.
absolutely,
Part of the it's part of the process of becoming.
So, like,
absolutely.
how do you distinguish between something that requires patience versus something that you're not supposed to be at, so it's not working?
Ooh, that's a good one. You're asking great questions, Kevin. I that's so funny because right now I can't find an answer because I don't know if I've had that experience. I'm sure I have. I just can't recall it in this very moment. Um, I guess I would say I don't know. I'm serious. I'm sitting here going, huh. I really, that's such a great question that I don't know if I have a response to it. And maybe that's because for me, all of it works together.
Mm,
I don't I don't know. I've learned over the years working with thousands of people as a therapist and in my own life, um, that everything isn't black or white. It's not this way or that way. It
Right.
all works together. And if I allow all of it to work together and have its value and have its place in my life, it always works out for my highest good.
Right.
So the challenge for me to answer that question is they've probably blended together where there are moments where in that continuum in that journey I was rigid and I wanted it to be the way I thought it should be. But once I let go, it allowed itself to blossom and metamorph into what it's supposed to be. It had the opportunity to transform, and therefore I transform, and then it worked out for my good. So
Like
I
in a
can't.
more
It
natural
just
way.
it just it just flowed harmoniously. It
Yeah.
just happened because
Okay.
I got away from trying to make things happen.
Trying to
That's
make it
probably what
happen.
I'm trying
Yeah.
to
Right.
make things happen. And that doesn't mean you don't do action. That doesn't mean you don't put work to it. You do what you can up to the point where you realize there's nothing else I can do. I've done all I can do. The rest is now in God's hands. I've done everything that God's put on my heart, the little fleeting moments to the best of my ability. I'm proud of myself. Now I let it go and let the supernatural power of God take care of the rest of it.
Great
And
perspective.
whatever happens, good, bad, or indifferent, it happens exactly the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, that's a great perspective.
yeah, I think for me, it's been more so like your spirit just knows. Like there's no logical thing that says, okay, time to move on. You just feel like I don't something ain't right about this. Let me go do
Yeah.
something else. And
Yeah, and you have to trust your instincts because somewhere you're right. Somewhere along the line, you just go, "Okay, I'm done." Like me being a therapist, there came a point where it's like I was done, but I was so comfortable with the money I was making and the benefits that I had that it was hard to move. And I was young at that time too. I wasn't as mature as I am now, so God had to allow me to get laid off in order for me to move forward to be where I am today. So it all worked together.
yeah, and it's amazing that we are given like multiple tools in which to experience this world. Like typically in the West, we're more focused on the analytical, and we think that's the solution to everything. But there's also that spirit that's sensing like something isn't quite right. I don't have the logical words for this, but let me stay away or let me go over here. I feel like and I think you have to have both sides like working together. You can't just lean completely to your own understanding because you're gonna
Yeah.
you
So
know
balance. We're talking
I,
balance.
Well, again, I don't like the word balance, but harmony, balance. If
Okay.
that really makes, if
Harmony.
balance helps you understand, then harmony or flow, yes. The ultimate thing is, am I living my best life? And if something I'm doing is not making me feel well, it's not helping me live my best life.
Oop.
Oh, still there?
There we go.
Hello?
Okay, there we go. But yeah, man, I think I think it comes down to you have to listen to your spirit and not just your logical mind, because if you just focus on one completely, then um, you know God can see way further than any of us can see individually. So you can't just
Exactly.
trust in your logic. And,
No, I
you know,
think, yeah, it's like, maybe it's 50-50. You got to trust your intuition, but you also got to keep your head up and your eyes open, to watch for like potential danger or, potential pitfalls. I think God is, allowing us to mess up sometimes so we learn that lesson.
yeah, sometimes you because no matter what you do, you're never gonna be like perfect. Like you're never just gonna start something and be perfect. You have to mess up as part of the process. But yeah,
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I think Dr. Anita got disconnected. So I guess we can
Yeah, we lost her.
yeah, it was an awesome show, but I guess we can end it on this note.